Hello, hello, my beloved waking gods and goddesses. Welcome to Love, Truth, and Beauty. Maria West here. This is episode 417 and my 24th installment of my series, Conversations with Men. And today I have with me a One Great Work Network brother of mine, Greg Papanicolas, who is the creator of this amazing portal for men. It's called the Sparta Code. I can't tell you how amazing that is, and that you say it is the brotherhood for men who value, okay, let me get it. Let me get it. Strength,
Yeah.
fitness, family, and leadership. You are also the host for the podcast, The Walls of Sparta. Welcome, Greg. I'm so happy that you're here.
Maria, it is an honor. Thank you for having me. It's been a little while since we had a little chat, but I'm glad we're doing this today.
Yes,
Glad we're doing
yes,
this.
indeed. And it's an important time because of just all the stuff going on in the world, the whole woke nonsense that's happening, all of the distortions regarding truth. And of course, what does it do? It really sets us up, men, women, boys, and girls, to be utterly confused about, well, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What is your inspiration in terms of the platform that you created, which I think is just so awesome because we need more of that for men. What's your inspiration for all of this?
So when I ventured out to do the fitness deal first, which was the only thing that I had any experience in at the beginning of just doing anything on my own outside of having a job, Maria, I was leaning towards helping others, not just in strength training and in fitness and in health overall, but it became all these conversations I would have with men when we would do these meetups, I'd say probably a bi-monthly time period
Mhm.
each month. I would just be like, what are your needs? What's going on? And most of the time, we wouldn't even be talking about fitness. We would be talking about his marriage or
Mhm.
his struggles or his kids. And it became something a little bit deeper than just the surface level. Oh, how have you been keeping up with your nutrition? Oh, how have you been keeping up with your health? And because of that, like that kind of led me down that path of, well, maybe I need to try to sort of angle this a little bit more toward not just the physical side, but the spiritual side, the mental side. And as a result of that, it grew into this, which was kind of partially inspired by, my own sort of struggles myself when I was sort of in my early 30s. I had that
Mhm.
quarter life crisis because I wasn't a rebellious child. So
Mhm.
if you have that, it's coming eventually. It's going to hit. And since I didn't have that crisis early on of teenage rebellion, and I kind of just wanted to stay out of trouble because I saw how, my siblings were being sort of treated. And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't
Ah,
act up because if I don't act up, nothing will happen. So by the time, my 30s came around and I was able to speak up more, speak my mind, have, a little bit more say, the dam opened. And
whoa.
it was like that combination of sort of being held back with a lot of ideas and
Mhm.
my viewpoint and my expression. You couple that with sort of the stress of everyday life, and my own struggle turned into what I ended up helping other men with. So as I healed from all of those different, I guess, struggles, for lack of a better word, I mean, that's what they were. And, you can call them demons, you can call them whatever. Once I was able to purge them, then I started thinking about, well, how many more men are not speaking up
Wow.
and just living in silent pain, not expressing it. And that was what was holding me back, was I wasn't able to articulate and put words to my pain until
Hmm.
I learned how to do that
Hmm.
throughout my 30s. And then once that dam opened up, I was then more comfortable to share it. It was more accepting. The people around me were adjusting to it. And of course, the world as a whole was changing as far as being more open to that expression. And I think that's sort of kind of the that's the short version of how it all
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
together.
What were some of the demons that you were wrestling with? I'm curious.
Yeah. So most of them were a lot of, I would say, a lot of the self disidentification. I didn't have everything was very identity attached with me. So this became sort of it was more of the label. I would follow the label and act in
Mhm.
accordance with that label. Greg was the football player, so Greg acted like a football player. He existed as a football player. He made his decisions based on what a football player would do. And uh, that became sort of what I was attached and completely owned by. Um, and when I was able to purge that eventually from just doing a lot of inner work, a lot of searching, a lot of the work that you and I
Mhm.
follow on, the page. This was early on. This was a lot of Michael Tessarion. It was a lot of Mark Passio's work, a lot of psychologists that I was reading, a lot of early German psychologists, and uh, you know, these books were $2, and I was picking them up and just reading them, and I've learned more about the self in, I would say, about a 3 year period, because that's all I consumed.
Mhm.
So from about 2012 to about 2015, it was just read, do nothing but read.
Yeah.
And I just consumed as much as I could in that time period with the time that I did have. And along with that became, hey, let me take some risks here. Let me start my own business, because the confidence was coming back, right? Everything
Yeah.
that was being held back before is now, I can move forward. I can do the things that I've missed out on all these years. And a lot of times, the demons, there were times where I was fighting them, but I didn't know it.
Hmm.
I didn't even know it. It was so natural to me, because I'd been holding them in, and they were squeezing, and it was
Yeah.
uh, such a rigid feeling inside my body that I never could let go. And once I let go, my body improved, my mental acuity, my confidence, like I said, my um, just my whole spiritual awareness changed as a result of that. I became more in tune with the spirit world because of all of those things being held
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
right? I didn't pursue any of that early on, because
Yeah.
everything was just so right in front of me. It
Yeah.
was just, let me react, let me not be in control of my destiny, let me react to others' reality
Hmm.
and bounce my responses and um, my traumas off of what they're
Yeah. Wow, that
experiencing.
is a painful way to be, isn't it? It's like, ah,
Yeah.
wow.
Very, very, very tough. Very tough.
Did you have mentoring for that, or was this you of your own volition, just kind of one step in front of another, and then all the resources kind of pouring in from just all these points unknown, and here they are.
Yeah, because again, like when you think about it, and I can go back and sort of try to trace everything,
Hmm.
a lot of these influences were just people that I was reading about. I didn't have that. Well, let me say this. My father was a great, great man, and he still is. And the fact that I was able to learn so much from him, he shaped me as an individual, and I thank him a lot, right? And the thing is, fathers aren't perfect, right? Everything
They're
that
not.
happened up until that point was, I always felt it was self-inflicted, right? My own traumas were self-inflicted. I didn't feel like nothing that my parents ever did anything to cause that. So like
Hmm.
in my brain, I was like, am I just minimizing something small that maybe he had said at one time? Or am I just am I just thinking about something that may have been apart from me? Maybe it was a an ancestral thing deep that
Mm.
I never experienced in the present period, but that I'm carrying in my DNA somewhere.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
know whether
And
that
you're
was
Greek.
right. So there's probably tons there that date back,
Hmm.
I mean, how far, right?
Indeed.
So I didn't know whether or not it was connected to that or whether or not it was something I was minimizing in my childhood that maybe I
Hmm.
thought, hey, that really didn't impact me that much. So
Yeah.
I couldn't trace it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Did this change your relationships? Just in terms of like friendships, relationships with women, relationships with yeah, the sort of self-talk that we do. I mean, I can only speak as a woman, the negative self-talk, which I didn't know was negative for a very, very long time, other than it was someone else's voice. Um, did you encounter that?
Yeah. When I was in my teenage years, the I was the showman. I was the one doing the funny things for other people. So everything would be to entertain. That's where I found my value. So I would entertain friends, make them laugh, and that would be sort of the way I would feel comfortable existing in that time period. But because of that, it was, hey, dance for us. It
Mhm.
became almost became like they would own my time, that
Okay.
they would end up becoming more of an influence on me than I was an influence on myself. So these friends would take advantage of that and feel as though I was always going to be there to make them laugh. You be on stage, we'll be in the audience, just
Hmm.
do
Yeah.
your thing, right? Felt like a sort of the puppet for people.
Yes.
Um, and then with my relationship with, and that was mostly with other boys my age. I had a few real genuine friendships. In fact, my best friend I still have to this day. Um, we met in middle school, and he's just another version of me. So I found that guy that was struggling along with me. Not a lot of people find that one friend that you just finish each other's sentences, you look at each other, you know what exactly what
Hmm.
we're thinking. There's
Yeah,
that
that's
friend. He's
cool.
been there forever. Um, we helped each other through a lot of that confusion throughout the process of growing up and being uh, you know and trying to raise ourselves. Um, and I'd say with women, it was more of a curiosity, but also I would almost call it a fear because my older sister was very type A and very um she's very fierce and very strong. And at first I was immediately like, whoa, what is this? Is this every woman?
Like,
I didn't know what to think. Yeah, I didn't know what to think. I thought, am I just sharing space? Am I, where's my uh I don't know, where do I fit in here?
yeah,
So
yeah.
but as we got older and I got older, we grew real close. She was just going through her crisis, her rebellion, and she softened up, became more feminine,
Wonderful.
connected with that side of herself. And as that was happening, I was connecting with my masculine side more. Um, and I think it because of that, we meshed together really well as brother and sister. We really balance each other out. We're so happy when we're around each other. And so along with that, I was gaining more trust in myself in, the relationship area. So I'd have, a couple of relationships all throughout college. They wouldn't be long, but they would be, I'd say, substantial through most,
Hmm.
most
Of
college.
course.
And then when I met my wife, that was sort of right right after college, and we had known each other a little bit throughout high school, and we met again. But like that relationship grew out of that comfort level now with the feminine, and not feeling like it was this force all the time that was over
Hmm.
masculinized
Yeah.
and and like a threat that I felt, before.
Yeah.
So when I eased into it a little more, I was able to adjust more to it and feel more comfortable, um, just in relationships in general, but more so, it helped a lot more with my relationship with women, to the point
Yeah.
where I was able to work almost exclusively with them in the early days of Sparta.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was doing that for the beginnings of the
Yeah.
fitness venture. It was 80% women.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was an easy thing for me to adjust to, because hey, I got a sister, I got a wife. I'm used to helping women that are struggling
Yeah.
with,
You've
all
got
types.
that down.
Yeah, yeah, and that was an easy thing for me. So
Hmm.
switching to men was a transition of, hey, these women are doing pretty well for themselves, and they're growing and they're getting stronger, and I saw a void there with the men, circling back to the men, and um, mostly with identity, with trying to pull apart from their what they're supposed to be, what
Wow.
society has raised them to be, and to try to pull them away from that a little bit and
Wow.
individualize them, figure out who they really are deep down,
Yeah. I love that. I love hearing that because it is so true. What are some of the things that you see that are like common denominators for the men that you work with?
I think a lot of the struggles, they come from a lot of issues with the father. I feel like I end up with a lot of men that have had difficult relationships with their dads. And
Hmm.
and I think in a way, when they meet me, they go, this is not familiar. This doesn't feel like that father figure.
Yeah.
He's a leader, but he doesn't feel like that person that I learned from, that I supposedly learned from.
Hmm.
And so when they had struggles with identity, and they had struggles with, um, trauma from the father, which could have been any kind, verbal, physical, um, and this wouldn't shock you, but a lot of them come from military backgrounds, and they see me and they think, oh, this must be a military guy. And then they find out I wasn't.
Hmm. I love it. Love it. Just
So they
disarm them right off the
disarm
bat.
completely. Right, right. The shoulders fooled them. And I tell them all the time, this is not what you see is not what you're going to get, because I promise you're going to find some things out about me that may not jive with your perception.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when they find that out, again, like you said, it disarms them. It makes them a little bit more like, okay, I can drop all these walls. And then when I
Hmm.
talk about the Spartan walls, it's you have to be able to drop them when you have to discuss your deepest, darkest
Hmm.
secrets, your deepest, darkest fears, all of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What an intense um interface.
Hmm.
And I can feel it from you, just this presence and this strength of like just being there and showing up for these men who are I mean, from what I gather, and it's the same in my work, the sort of over identification with how we are supposed to be,
Yep.
whatever the fuck that means.
Right.
Because so much of it is either unspoken or just assumed
Yeah.
to be. And we should just know this by virtue of where we come from. And that is not necessarily true.
Yeah. I almost just call it the planned self. Somebody had a plan and it was a bunch of different people chiming in and those all became the narrative in your head.
Wow.
You know,
That's actually a great way to put it. Wowie.
thank you. It's one of and one of the things that I learned in these books, these early German psychologists and um, people like Michael Tessarion was it's really important to sit with the self in silence
Hmm.
and just think,
Yes.
be away from everything and to think because living in accordance with all of the stimuli that we get bombarded with is sometimes is the cause of a lot of the stuff we see with depression and
Hmm.
all the destruction of the self. But that's where we find out who we are. This is when we go in deeper
Yeah.
and we can really sit with our thoughts. And that's a lot of what I did in those 3 to 4 years when I had the time to just sit,
Hmm.
and and just sit on that beach and close my eyes and just think,
Yeah.
meditate and do the type of work that most people don't have the patience for.
Yeah.
And I know you've worked with a lot of them probably already that
Oh yeah,
they would
the
resist it immediately.
contemplative way
Yeah,
of really just kind of examining with your own thoughts, not the thoughts that come from other places where is that even your thought, you know? Um, so wow, that is so cool. I'm so happy that you are here with us and that you're doing this work because I run into so many men who are silently suffering because they feel like they don't have a voice and they feel like everybody is entitled to whatever they have to offer without a thank you, without even an acknowledgement.
yeah,
And so I am such an advocate for men because I have just witnessed this incredible disrespect,
yeah,
and like I said, this entitlement to men and access, and that well, it's his job, and this is how he's supposed to be, and I just it just really it hurts my heart. It hurts
yeah.
my heart. So I thank you for that. And I'm looking at our time, and I'm like, oh my God, is it almost over? So what I want to get to
Yeah,
is
yeah,
your two recent podcasts about men and pornography.
yeah,
What I really, really enjoyed is your connection and the distinction between eroticism and pornography, which I thought is just so, so critical. And I really appreciate that you actually bring that out because I think it's a distinction that can free up so many people and free up and release that shame spiral
yeah,
that prevails in sexuality, whether it's pornography or masturbation or whatever. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to just have you speak on that because men are so categorized as being predatory
yeah,
and and fucked up and just on and on and on and on and on. And I really want to dispel that because it's such a distortion to not just the pain, but really the our sort of shame-based
yeah,
um pain body around sexuality, around sensuality, around feeling anything. And so the eroticism around touch,
yeah.
the slightness and the senses, I really, yeah, tell us
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So, and again, this is the thing that came up for me recently because a lot of the people were talking about it on Facebook. And I appreciate you bringing that up because it was such a hot topic. And I would see it every day of people that, would talk about it. They would post it, women would post about it, and men would chime in, and you'd get, either response, no matter what that response was. It was usually contentious.
Of course.
But
Yeah. Very triggering.
yeah,
Very.
it is. And what I was going back to was whenever I would chime in, I would say take the time to understand where they're coming from and where they want to get, because a lot of them want to heal from it, right? Um, and kudos to the women that have given them patience, and that's the key word there, because the word patience is such an important concept for that particular,
Mhm.
you know, topic, because it all comes back to being patient with the self and with your loved one, to where you're not chasing the end result, you're not chasing the climax. It's everything that happens in between, so
Mhm.
that you build to the eruption instead of just the volcano exploding immediately after it gets hot. The fact of the matter is, if you anticipate more, if you take your time, you're building the sexual tension. And this is the better sexual tension. This
Mhm.
isn't the type that we were, clinging on to, that we don't want to, that we want to, we just can't wait to release. It's
Mhm.
the type of tension that builds up, and I'll get back to this in a fitness sense too, where we build up so much in the body that we're ready to release it, and you can learn ways to hold back even longer, to where you can exercise your body to the point where you're still holding on to that tension and still holding on to that
Mhm.
tension, just letting it circulate, and this is when they talk about how where that orgasm kind of goes up the spine, you feel it up your spine. There's a reason why. It's the chakras, and it's supposed to feel that way. But there are ways to hold on to it and let it circulate the body so that you don't immediately purge it, right? And
Indeed.
you hold it in, and men can actually enjoy multiple orgasms without ejaculating. And it's the thing that most men look at me and go, "How the fuck
How does
you
that
can't,
happen?
right? You can't do that. That's not possible." It's like, well, if you train your muscles and your body and your mind, yes, you can. It just takes a very long time to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
But in there lies the patience with it. You have to be patient with it. And that's part of the reason I brought up the whole patience thing, is because in the episode I did, I was mentioning that the you take an average situation between a man and a woman, and they're throughout the week they're busy, but they're still playful. This is the ideal, right? I'm just talking about the ideal situation. They're busy, but they're still open to being playful throughout the
Mhm.
week without just completely burning out, right?
Yes.
And saying, okay, we have to get this done now, right? The eruption happens too early, and then it's what happens after it, right? Boom, we're done.
Yeah.
The the sexual tension that builds up in the course of the week is enjoyable for both people, because it builds the anticipation and sort of builds this grand stage of celebration at the end of the moment, where you finally figure out, okay, it's happening today, and it's spontaneous,
Yes.
versus this whole thing where it's like, all right, we usually have intercourse on Wednesday. What happened?
Yes.
What happened to you? Did something come up?
Date night.
Exactly. So you're building towards something and being patient with it. And the same thing that I can kind of compare pornography and eroticism to, with self
Mhm.
pleasure, is
Mhm.
you're 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 doing it the way the boys did it when they were younger. It's like you're building in the 80s, of course, we didn't have all the things right in front of us. So what do we
Mhm.
have to do? We had to go into the imagination
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
think of scenarios that were, pleasing to the senses. So we would kind of let that Rolodex of wonderful thoughts enter our head, and then we were more patient with the process, and the funny thing is we can get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can get back to that that meditative self-pleasure that we used to enjoy as 80s babies without all the without all the stuff in front of us that was able to stimulate us. So
Right.
um you take that versus what we have today, which is everything at your fingertips, and it takes away from the magic of it. It takes away
Hmm.
from um building towards um building towards the release that, yeah, you may be holding in, but why don't you toy with that a little bit? Why don't you just kind of sit with a little bit of that and not release it so quickly? Because
Yes.
once it's gone, the life force is gone, and now we're back to, okay, well, I'm empty of something and I have to gain it back. And
Indeed, that depletion
right,
that can be exhausting
right,
rather than learning how to wield it
yeah,
so that you get the pleasure without the depletion and you're actually energized
yep. You said in such a perfect way.
is
That's it.
like so
That's it.
amazing. And it is possible, kids. It
Yep,
really, really is.
absolutely. And I'm just so glad you brought it up, because that was the one thing I was not worried about broaching online, because I don't care about the taboo topics. I'll
Hmm.
talk
Hmm.
about them. But it's such a controversial thing for to bring up some kind of piece of it that
Yeah.
may get a little bit of a contentious thing going on. So I just dropped the actual episode and just said, "Here, have at it. Learn from it. You don't have to DM me. You don't have to talk about it. Just tell me what you think." Um, and and I think so far the reviews have been great, as far as a lot of the women that have said, "Oh, I think this piece of it is a good idea for him because he's been struggling with X, and I think that would be a good thing for him." And
Yeah.
when I hear that, I'm like, perfect. So that's, if it okay, one person, if I affected one person, I don't care if anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
I was very, very impressed because, there's so much upheaval right now within the community of men. You've got MGTOW, you've got the players, you've got the hookup cultures, the pickup artists, and all this kind of stuff. And all those groups, I mean, I honor where they're at, but it's still about getting over on someone.
yeah,
It's not about connection. It's hardly about connection about the self.
yeah,
It's like me, 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 and more me.
I
And
show up.
what are you going to do for me? So I really appreciate, your perspective on it. And I think there's more to come because, it was just really broaching the topic and dropping it in
Yeah,
to the field
yeah,
and yes, they're on their way.
absolutely. What So much more to expand on. You're right. I
Yes.
mean, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you're very familiar with just dropping little nuggets
Yeah.
here and there.
Little nuggets here and there. Sometimes we get slapped. There's a little bit of slapping that happens. So, oops. But we're adults. We
Yeah,
can handle it.
right.
We can
Exactly.
handle it.
Yeah.
So what is up for you in the few minutes that we have left? What's up for you? What's in your what's in your line of sight currently? What are you working on?
Yeah, so now I'm currently going to be starting up in-person training at a local gym that I think will help a little bit more with the hands-on work. Because I've been doing online forever, and I haven't really touched on one to one in-person work in a long time. I haven't done that since, gosh, 2017. So
Mhm.
it'll be nice to get back into a place where I can help people physically, with technique, and looking at different things on their biomechanics and how they move.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm slowly trying to get put together a book about almost how to kind of come out of that dark period and take the first couple of steps toward self-analysis and
Mhm.
growth. it's sort of the, darkness to light journey, obviously, that a lot of men go through, but really like a step-by-step process of how I did it. Not necessarily a manual, but talk about my experience and maybe
Yeah,
somebody can gain a little bit from that. Um,
that would be cool.
yeah, and I'm thinking about working on more on that because I've started it with a lot of notes and just they're disorganized and I need to organize them before I even think about starting to type them. But um, yeah, just sort of a growth manual out
Mhm.
of depression, and how to kind of restart life, and
Well,
grow.
I'm ready to buy because I know a whole bunch of people that would really benefit from that. And it's really much needed. I mean, men have gotten a bad rap.
Yeah,
I mean, really, that the stuff that I've seen, it's like
I know.
I don't get it. So, good on you.
Thank you,
On
thank
you.
you.
And where can people find you?
So they can find me at coachgregp.com. That's the website. If you're not into the coaching and you kind of just want to chat about just, life in general and growth and all the struggles that men are kind of, having to go through and deal with, I think the best place is to just kind of DM me on Facebook or Instagram, start a conversation. I really think that breaks the ice. Looking at a website and then finding someone is a little bit impersonal. So I like to
Mhm.
get to know the person a little bit. There's nothing worse than getting bombarded with somebody you don't know trying to get you to do something.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah, so that personal connection I think is important. So they can find me. On Facebook and Instagram, or the website if they're interested in the coaching. So
Okay, cool. We'll have all of Greg's information in the show notes below. Thank you, Greg. It's gone way too fast. We'll have to have you on again and go deeper. But I am so thrilled to have had this conversation with you, and I really just send you so much love and good vibes because you are doing fantastic work.
thank you.
And thanks once again for
Love the work you're
everything.
doing. Absolutely. Love the work you're doing too. And thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. All right, my loves, that is it for this segment. So until next time, here is to Love, Truth, and Beauty. Mwah! Bye, sweethearts. Bye, darlings.